This Moon Magic, and welcome back, y'all, to Tea and Tarot. We're going to go ahead and see what the vibes are this week for the collective. We're going to be pulling and shuffling cards live here, and we're also going to be checking in, talking about how our week has been going, and vibing with our intuition and the cards. So how are we doing? Don't forget to grab your tea, water, spicy drinks, whatever you have at home, and we're going to go ahead and get started and vibe and see what's happening. For check-ins this week, I have a show this Sunday. The Xmas wrap-up show is happening here in Sacramento. We're wrapping up the year together and giving back to Sac Loaves, which is a food clothing donation here in Sacramento. And just getting together with some of my favorite artists and people in the city to come together and celebrate the end of the year. And you know it's going to be festive, so definitely come through if you are in Sacramento. We have my album release party that is teamed up with Sac 916's 3-year anniversary, as well as Madi Bush's album release party. So we're going to have that January 18th. Save the date for that. Those are my two upcoming shows in Sacramento. And any other updates happening right now? I think those are the main updates in terms of shows, things that are going on in that way. Let me know, how is your week going? Drop a comment down below, or if you're here in the live, go ahead and share in the live chat. I know last week was a really all over the place type of energy. I definitely have seen how this energy has been kind of coming together the last week or so in my own personal readings, my own personal life, as well as what I've been pulling for my clients and family on the Patreon, and as well as just here on the Tea and Tarot lives. And it's definitely felt like it's been a moment of just really asking us to kind of rise to the occasion and push past what it is that we have thought that we could do. And in a way that can be encouraging us to almost get so uncomfortable, or pushing us to a place where we're so uncomfortable that there is no other option but to win, to change, to shift, to allow this thing to let go, transform, and become something new. And that's been really powerful to see how that energy's kind of come through this week, at least for me personally, but also in my readings with my families on the Patreon. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, the link is over at my website, www.moonmagicflows.com. I'm going to go ahead and put it here in the chat. And that's where I pull for the top tier of Patreon. I pull for them once a month, and they get their own individual reading. There's also other tiers where you can get a single card pull from me, and also a tier that is just related to music. And that tier is where you'll get access to exclusive unreleased songs and instrumentals, and also on my practice sessions. I've been doing a lot of practice sessions on my instruments, piano and guitar, and have been posting those practice sessions up on the Patreon under that music tier. So if you're interested in that, definitely go check that out. And then, of course, I'm putting my Cash App and Venmo up here, so if you do feel called to donate, definitely is always much appreciated, and really goes a long way to helping sustain me as an independent and full-time artist. And yeah, let's jump into it. I don't think I see anyone here on the chat sharing a check-in, but like I said, if you're watching this on the playback or you just joined the chat, definitely check in below. Let me know how you're doing. I see Social Adventurers in the building. Hello, it's good to see you. But yeah, I think we're just gonna go ahead and dive in and see what the energies are for this week. My check-ins are kind of small because I don't really feel like there's much to check in about, except for, like I said, the energy's just been shifting to a place of like, how bad do you want it? How uncomfortable are you willing to allow yourself to get before you change? And putting us in a place of uncomfortability so that we have no choice but to shift and change. And that's been really big transformations, or shifts, I should say. Maybe in subtle ways, but I could definitely feel it in bigger ways as well. And I'm also closing out my first semester back at school. As I've mentioned here before, I went back to school for audio engineering and music and just finished my first semester. So finals are on Monday and Tuesday. Wish your girl luck. Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into these cards. So first we're going to go ahead and ground in. So no matter what kind of day you had, for myself here, I had a pretty busy day. I got the water right here, drinking extra water because I know I need some extra fluids to help me get through my day today. So make sure you have your coffee, water, tea, whatever drink you like. And we're going to go ahead and ground in. You can join me by closing your eyes, sitting up straight, or just getting comfortable. Whatever feels good for you. Sometimes I like to put one hand over my heart, one hand over my gut area, or just kind of sitting up straight, having a nice straight spine, opening the chest, and taking deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Just really allowing ourselves to ground into this present moment. Continue breathing on your own, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just really checking in with how your body's feeling. What kind of emotions might be coming up for you right now? Or if nothing specific is coming up or on your heart today, just allowing yourself to be open to have these messages come in a good way. And asking that you have the discernment to know which messages are yours and the ways in which they apply to your life. And just asking that this time be a sacred container for us to be able to do this work. Kind of be protected from the noise or the clutter from outside of us during this time, so that we can get that clarity and confirmation to help support us on our journey right now, here at this present moment. One last deep breath in. And release. All right, y'all. We're here. It's Tea and Tarot. Let's go ahead and dive into the cards and see what there is to be said. If you just joined us here on the chat or you're watching this on the playback, we are about to dive into the overall energy right now. We just did check-ins and updates. So if you have a check-in and update, let me know what's going on in your world down below. But aside from that, we're going to go ahead and dive right into the cards and see what is the energy for this week. Ooh. We have the Magician, but it was reversed, which that came out last week too. And we have the Star card. And I think this card coming out reversed, but not reversed, like I saw it reversed, but when I picked it up, it was upright, is significant within itself. So I'm going to go ahead and let you all vibe with the cards. Let me know what you see. Any symbols that stick out with you. I always think that this part right here is very important in terms of just vibing with our own intuition. What colors stick out to you? What symbols stick out to you? What stories might come to the forefront of your mind? Definitely share down below if you're feeling called. I always say that it can really add to a reading, and you never know how what you see and what resonates to you may also resonate with somebody else. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and dive in with this Magician card right away. The Magician card coming in, and it coming in reverse, kind of upright, to me is actually really significant because last week it was completely reversed. And last week's message was a really tough message. You can watch that on the playback on my main page and on Instagram or on the YouTube. And the message was one of being in a position where you can't really force what is happening to change, in a way of understanding that certain things are out of our control. And I feel like that message is coming through right now. The first thing that it makes me think of is a conversation that I had with Tasia, aka Mother Venom. Shout out to her. We're actually planning on getting together and having her come on a Tea and Tarot Live for us to discuss this topic, and for me to hop on her live podcast as well. and have a part 2 conversation on this because it's so juicy and I feel like we could go into great detail about this. But a little summary of what the conversation was about this kind of internal and external struggle we may have with our will, and the understanding that there are certain things in life and a lot of things that are very important for us to have a strong sense of will and determination and the ability to hell or high water make things happen, so to speak, and to have almost a delusional sense of will and exertion over circumstances in our life, right? But then on the flip side, right, there are certain things that are, out of our control, and when we do try to force and budget, we can see that unravel and backfire in our face, and actually remind us of our humanness and our finiteness and the physical limitations of things like physical limitations. I can will it all I want, but no matter how much will I have, no angel wings are popping on my back. And that's just a silly example, but on a very real level, there are certain things that are, outside of our control. Death and, physically trying to change our bodies in certain ways that are outside of our ability to do so. Things like that are clear examples of our physical limitations. And sometimes when you try to force those things, right, you may end up in a lot more hot water than what you bargained for. This can also be very significant of trying to force other people's will, right? If you've ever been in a situation where you're trying to force a friend or a romantic partner or something like that to do something for you, or to love you, or to care about you, or to show up for you in a way that you would show up for them, but they're not showing up for you, it usually does not go very well, because whenever we try to force someone else's will, we end up usually in a position that we don't want to be. And so I think that this card coming up today, right now, in this moment, showing in this kind of intricate balance of like up and down, to me also signifies this sense of like really being able to have discernment right now of what are the things that are within our control, what are the things in which we're being asked to rise to the occasion and to exert more will over, and to go beyond what we thought was possible and to push our limitations, and what are the things that are just out of our control and that we know is not something that we need to internalize, because it's just part of being in these finite bodies and in this existence, and knowing the difference and having that discernment and understanding the fine nuances between the two. That's immediately how I'm seeing this energy right now. And I love that the star card came out here too, because I feel like it's just kind of confirming to have hope and to see through the darkness, and to not allow the parts that maybe we feel that we are confined and we are being, put in a box, or being pushed our backs against the wall and feeling like we don't have control in a situation. That can be very difficult, but certain times and certain things, it's for our better, even if we don't understand in the moment what that might be, right? And so a clear example of this is, like I said, trying to force someone to love you. And if you had that person that you forced to love you, maybe they would love you, but they would later on cheat on you because they have issues with infidelity, right? And that's one way that this energy can show up. You may think, oh, well, now they love me and that's all I wanted. But what you really want is something that this person may not be capable of. And that this inability to have things work out in the way that you want right now can actually be for your own better protection. Sometimes we're protected from going down certain roads of career where we think that this is going to be what we want, money, security, etc. But we don't realize that maybe other aspects of that job are not for us. Maybe it's asking us to kind of sell our soul, so to speak, or to have a schedule that doesn't align with us being able to also see our family and our children on the weekends, or whatever it may be, right? Fill in the blank. All right, so that's the immediate energy. I just needed to get that off my chest because it was coming in hot. Man, I feel like Spirit has been talking to me a lot today, specifically because this energy has been kind of sitting with me since our last tea in tarot, and repeatedly the same kind of energy showed up in kind of very nuanced, different ways throughout this past week as I was pulling for my family on the Patreon and my personal tarot clients. because I saw the same energy almost in every single reading. And to me, it's just very confirming about the way in which we are such a part of a collective. But I also been seeing how this energy is kind of coming full circle and what it wants to speak to me now and wants to speak to you, you know, as byproduct, right? All right, I'm going to go ahead and read some of these messages. Ooh, I fixed my legs because I'm crisscross on this metal chair. All right, so let's see. Joey, a retro, said water through hands and the cape. Ooh, I love that. I immediately when I think of the cape, I'm actually really, this is kind of giving me the sense of like being your own hero too. I feel like that is very, very important right now. Shout out to Jamie/Jay Did It. We had a very powerful conversation this past week. And one of the things I took away from that conversation was about how nobody is coming to save us. And I think that's something that when we are in this position of this Magician card reverse, right, where we feel like our back is against the wall and there are certain circumstances that are outside of our control, it can be over-consuming, all-consuming, and have us in a place where we feel like a victim to the circumstance and feel that, you know, what was me type of feeling. And I just, you know, I'm going to sit here at a pity party waiting for someone to save me and to come rescue me from my situation and make my life better. And unfortunately, that's not the way that the world works. And for most people, you know, if it works for you, then, you know, salute to you. But I think, you know, what has been showing in the energy for myself and for the people around me and the way that the cards have been showing it is about recognizing where your power is, going back to Magician upright, where you have that cape in your life, where you are your own superhero and showing up and doing the dang thing, you doing the job, putting in those extra hours, going beyond your limits, and recognizing just how strong and how powerful you are at a place that was almost your breaking point. And in transforming that, it becomes a sense of empowerment to understand that you can go the distance and that you can go further than what you thought before, because you realize that you are your own superhero and the only one who's going to get you through this situation is yourself. So I love that you brought up cape, because that's immediately what it made me think of. Social Adventurer said, just left yoga, took my mom to a class with me. I love that. I would love to do yoga with my mom sometime. That sounds like super fun and healing. Shout out to Stud Man in the building. Joey, you're a promoter, you're LA promoter. Social Adventure says, truth, it does not, and spit and fire. All right, so that was immediately what the energy is showing for this week. That's a whole lot coming through, but like I said, last week, if you watched the video from last week, it was a heavy energy for your girl. And I was definitely like sitting with that message post and just like really trying to understand deeper, you know, as someone who feels so much, like what is it that we can do to work with this energy right now in this moment, and fully understanding it. All right, let's go ahead and pull some advice and see what comes through. What is the advice right now? King of Pentacles, reverse. And Nine of Pentacles, upright. And the Chariot. I'm going to give you all some time to vibe with this with your own intuition. Let me know down below in the live or on the comments in the playback. What do you see? What do you notice? We have the Chariot card. We have the Nine of Pentacles. And we have the King of Pentacles, but it was reverse. The first thing I noticed with the King of Pentacles reverse is really being asked to confront our deepest insecurities, whether that be financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, romantically. All the parts of us that make us believe that we need to stay small. All the parts of us that make us believe that this is the end of our story. All the parts of us that make us believe that things will always be this way. All the parts of us that make us believe that we couldn't have it better, or that we somehow there's something wrong with us that prevents us from being able to go the distance. All the things that keep us small from going that distance, right? So one way this kind of King of Pentacles energy has been showing up for me lately, reverse, has been this energy of like, the things that we know we could do to maybe get closer towards our goals, whether that be financially, romantically, emotionally, spiritually, all the things, right? But then there's that little voice in our head that's like, well, you know, you're too shy to do that, or you're not that type of person, or, you know, it's just not going to work for you, or whatever it may be that prevents you from starting that conversation, from asking that question, from, you know, going out and getting that job, or asking that person out, or whatever it might be. Maybe it's just simply about the way you carry yourself, your own energy, right? So it's really having us come face to face with these deeper rooted insecurities that spell into everything that we touch in a way that kind of permeates our ability to, it's like we stop ourselves before anyone else stops us, because we've already set our own limitations of what we believe we can and cannot do. And like I said, we're going back to the feeling of being asked to go the distance, to go beyond our perceived limitations, to go beyond our boundaries and limitations that we've had in the past, and to just see how strong and capable we are. This is that insecurity or feeling saying, oh, you're not that capable. You're not that strong. You don't have that energy. You're too tired to do that. You're not good enough for that. No one would want to do that for you. You're not talented enough to be able to do that. You're wasting your time. You know what I mean? You're doing the best you can, and this is the best. That's this kind of energy in whatever aspect of your life that may be showing up. We're being asked to confront that energy and say, is that true? Is this really? Or have we just kind of accepted our own become complacent to our own demise, complacent to our own it's like, you know, when you're fed something that's bad and you're like, yeah, we're just gonna keep eating this because it's bad and I feel bad and I'm just gonna continue feeling bad, instead of starting to say, well, am I always gonna feel this way? Or maybe it's what I'm actually eating, and maybe I need to stop eating this. And maybe I might feel hungover or, you know, sick for a couple of days as I detox from this thing that's making me feel, you know, this way, right? And that could, you know, be in any way, fill in the blank, right? Whether that's, you know, oh, I want to, you know, go and work out after work, but I'm always so tired, you know, I'm just too tired to do it. Are you really too tired to do it? Even for 10 minutes? Even if it's just walking up and down the steps of your apartment complex, right? And this is not in a judgment way, the way that this energy is showing up. It's saying you ain't got to do the walk or the workout or any of those things. It's not about the actual act of doing it. It's about the perceived limitation that you're not good enough to be able to do that thing. That's where this is showing up for me, as really asking us to look at that and say, is that the truth? And then we have the Chariot and the Nine of Pentacles. The Chariot and the Nine of Pentacles, yes. And so with the Chariot and the Nine of Pentacles, I feel like the Chariot and the Nine of Pentacles is continuing forward to, whenever I see the Chariot, it's always about like being the warrior, being someone who continues with the duality of what it is to exist, the good and the bad, the light and the darkness, the triumph and tragedy, the, you know, failures and successes, and despite all the circumstances, continuing to push forward, doing the best that you possibly can. It has that yin yang there, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, knowing that it being perfect is not what it's asking. It's asking, and this kind of came through earlier in a message that I had for someone on our Patreon family, was about how we're being asked to understand that whatever you feel like you may not be rising to is not in a place of judgment of saying, well, you're failing because you haven't risen to this thing, right? If you can see that distance or that gap between where you're at and what it is that you're rising to. It's not about this idea of judgment or, you know, lack or not being enough. It's about understanding that that's what you're rising to. That's what you're becoming. And this space right now is just encouraging you to know that you can and will eventually be able to go further than where you are at right now. you're just on your way to getting there. And on that way, that means you're going to have mistakes and fail and have these perceived failures, right? But those perceived failures are actually the strengthening of your journey and your path to get you where it is that you are rising to, if that makes sense. That's the way that this chariot energy is very much showing up, is, like I said, going the distance, being asked and advised to continue to push through despite the challenges, to push past what you thought you could do. And the Nine of Pentacles here, I really think that it's interesting the Nine of Pentacles showed up, because the Nine of Pentacles for me has always been such a card about basking in what it is that we do have already, like the abundance that is already within us, and kind of like enjoying our own natural gifts, so to speak, right? So maybe, you may not be abundant in the bank account, but you are abundant in the love that you give other people, right? Or maybe you are abundant in your bank account, but you are not abundant in, your relationship area. Maybe you struggle to have romantic relationships, right? Or maybe you feel like you're struggling in almost every area, but you do have, still a roof over your head and some food on the table, and you're still able to make it all work, even if it's just like barely working, right? It's this feeling of kind of understanding, again, our personal power and speaking life and gratitude into those areas that do have that personal power. And again, like Nine of Pentacles has always been a card to me, building ourselves up, speaking life to ourselves, loving up on ourselves, enjoying the things that we already have in abundance, whether that be, some people don't have money, but they have time. Some people don't have time, but they have money. Some people don't have money or time, but they have the ability to, listen to something freely on their commute to work or commute home or whatever it may be. And it's like finding those pockets within your busy day, whether it's just 10 minutes to continue to push forward towards your goal, to be that chariot warrior and to appreciate the abundance of what you are right now and where you are headed to in your life. So I hope this message makes sense, because I feel like this is has been very, very strongly coming in this past day. But I'm going to go ahead and pull some oracle cards and see what comes through. And I hope everyone is having a good week. And we're going into the holiday season real soon. Gearing up for the end of the year. Ooh. Joey Retro said, we are equal with different strength. Definitely. Where we might be strong in one area, we might not be so strong in another area. And, it's really difficult to understand what someone else is going through, or other, comparing in that way. But to understand from a perspective of knowing where we are and where we want to be, and regardless of how difficult our situation is, and instead of trying to compare it to someone else's, trying to find that Nine of Pentacles within your own life, of that Nine of Pentacles is also always the card of like our own garden. The woman in the garden has always been the way that I've described this card, because it's like, to me, finding that personal garden, that personal place of peace and serenity and protection in a seemingly like impossible situation, of finding that. I feel like that's the advice, and what we're being asked to do is like to find that space of peace, protection, divinity. And whether that's 10 minutes of you come home and you're gonna watch your favorite quick comedy show that you watch or that makes you laugh, and to kick off your shoes and massage your feet as you get home. Or maybe it's 10 minutes of being in the dark with all the lights off. Whatever that is your personal garden and peace and serenity. It's like finding those moments, and then when you're in those moments, like bringing your awareness to it, and in a place of like gratitude, and regardless and despite the challenges, and not in a way that is saying, oh, these challenges are not present and just like pretending like they don't exist, but in a way that allows the duality, because Chariot is all about duality, of all of it to exist and all of it to be true, and despite all of it, continuing forward and, like I said, going the distance. That really has been the message, I feel like, for this week, is to go the distance and to rise to the occasion. All right, let's go ahead and look at our tarot cards. We have the Angel of Pleasure. I'm going to cover her up so we ain't got no issues with censorship over here. And this card has been coming up quite a lot lately. So let's go ahead and read it, what it says. It says, take pleasure in the things that you do. The message for today is to start to take pleasure in all the things that you do. It's not always about hard work, achievement, and performance. What is important is that you make the most of every moment in your life. Start to do more things that bring you pleasure and that bring pleasure to those you love, work, study, and play with. Try it. You may be surprised to find that when things become pleasurable, you accomplish more with less stress and effort. And yeah, this is definitely giving me that Nine of Pentacles energy. Like I said, like maybe you have been in a space where you felt like you haven't had time, money, energy. You don't have anything right now, right? It's like, well, within that, right, recognizing that while that might be true, carving out those 10 minutes of joy, those 10 minutes of pleasure for yourself are still very important, and actually will go a very long way in continuing to fuel you and to continuing to keep you going when you don't feel like you have time, energy, or money for anything. So that Angel of Pleasure, I feel like, is right on with that Nine of Pentacles energy, that garden of peace, your garden of pleasure, your garden of joy, and how important it is, despite having everything external be a place of maybe chaos or destruction or uncertainty or challenges and obstacles, to create that Nine of Pentacles garden, that Angel of Pleasure, sanctuary for yourself, even, like I said, if it's for 10 minutes a day, and how important that is, and not telling yourself that you don't have time for that or you don't deserve that. Even if it's you're in the bathroom and you're getting a little bit of peace and quiet from whatever it is that's outside on the other side of the door, and you're taking that moment for just I love you, we got this, you're badass, let's go, right? That's that kind of energy, and whatever it is that your circumstance is, because I realize that we all have, varying different types of lives and busyness and time and resources, right? But it's finding those couple minutes and kind of practices and devotions to your own pleasure and joy and abundance with what you already have and are able to access right now in this moment. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next one, Dare to Dream. This is from the Threads of Fate, very on par with what we've been talking about, of just really challenging our inner, our insecurities and woundings that may have us really confronting what we think is possible and asking us to go beyond that, and those kind of guardrails that we bump into ourselves. And, because we've time and time again been brutally kind of bumped into them by the world, right? It's like if the world has kind of beaten you down in a specific way for so long, you don't even wait for the world to beat you down. You know what I mean? You just kind of accept that limitation and don't even go to that wall anymore, so to speak, right? And it's like what the energy showing is like, despite that wall being there and knowing that very real like confrontation with that wall is possible, we should still try to go past it instead of stopping before the wall even hits us, because we already have been accustomed to the wall hitting us so many times over and over again. I know that's a really weird metaphor and analogy, but I hope it makes sense in the way that it's coming through. Please don't actually go running into walls. All right, Dare to Dream. No dream is too big for you. This card is an invitation to step wildly into your dreams and to visit them often, to ask them what they need from you, and despite what your current circumstances are, and no matter how far away you feel from your dreams, Spirit is telling you otherwise. We often neglect our dreams because we do not know how to attain them. But the process of going after them is a collaboration with the universe. If you show up for them, they will show up for you too. Yeah, and I just feel like this is extra confirmation with all the things I've already been talking about in this reading. Hydration break. All right, last card we have here is I free myself from critical thoughts towards my body and my worth. I feel like this is really affirming to that message of King of Pentacles reverse. So this is also number 44. If the number 44 means anything to you, and 44 adds to 8. And it says this card is all about worth. It says we are perfect and flawed all at once. To deny this is to deny the experience of being fully alive. Although we all share this truth, we tend to be the hardest on ourselves and may have developed a fierce inner critic. This voice has power. Do not banish it. Instead, teach this voice to be more uplifting and supportive. Notice when negative thoughts sneak in and choose to think differently. As you free yourself from unhealthy thoughts and patterns, tune in to what your real needs are. Recognize your desire to be loved and know that you're worthy beyond measure. Like any devoted practice, the retraining of your mental habits craves consistency. Continue showing up for yourself with kindness and compassion. Your inner critic is ready to transform into a more loving and productive voice in your life. And yes, this feels so aligned with what I was saying about us being asked to go the distance and to rise to the occasion. And when I was saying, when I say that, right, the idea might be, well, I have this expectation of going the distance and rising to the occasion, but then the moment I mess up and make a mistake, or what I perceive as a mistake, I start beating myself up and thinking, I don't have what it takes. I'm not capable of rising to the occasion or to going past this limitation, right? And when earlier when I was saying how when those situations happen, that when I say rise to the occasion or to go the distance, I'm talking about a state of becoming, right? And that perceived failure is just that, it's perceived, right? It's not, oh, I had this failure or I made a mistake, so I'm not able to rise to the occasion. It's okay, this bump happened, but we are on our way over here to continuing to rise past this limitation and past this situation, right? And having that kind of shift in mentality can be very powerful, because the moment we come up against a roadblock, it's very easy to kind of retract into that this is always the way that it's going to be, or I'm not able or capable of doing this thing because every time I try, I make a mistake, or I'm not able to get it perfect. And I feel like this card hit it right on when it's like we're perfect and flawed all at once. And being able to rise to the occasion or to go past your limitation does not mean to do it perfectly or what we perceive as perfect. It means to warrior chariot despite the circumstances. And remember that the chariot is all about balance. It's all about duality. It's all about the light and the dark. And that despite these flaws or mistakes or feeling like you're stumbling, so to speak, and not rising to the occasion as perfectly as you should be in whoever's eyes, it's not about how you're doing it, or whether you fail or make mistakes along the way. It's the fact that you do not give up and that you continue forward and you continue pushing through and you continue rising, working through, shifting through, transforming through, to where these things that were once very difficult and had you stumbling all the time will become easier and easier and easier. And you will never be able to get to a place where it might become easier if every time you even get close to that wall, we just get scared and go the other way because we're afraid of running into it. We have to be able to go and confront that wall again and try again. And if we fail, not take that as confirmation as that we are not able to push past that wall. But that, hey, we might have failed this time, but that doesn't mean we're going to fail next time. And that we are continuing to rise to the occasion, to meet that wall once again, look at it in its face and say, I will one day push through this wall. And maybe it won't be today, but we will sure as heck try and put our personal best foot forward, good, bad, and all with it, and continue to cultivate a mentality that doesn't keep us in a place of being small and not even allowing that possibility to exist. So I hope that all makes sense. That's the way that this energy is coming through to me and speaking here on this live tonight. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I want to thank your guides, my guides, and the divine for this time today. Like I mentioned before, if you want to join us for a one-on-one session with me, you can join the Patreon. It's at www.moonmagicflows.com and check out all the goodies there, or DM me for a one-off personal reading. But aside from that, I will see you all next week at the next Chi and Tarot Live from 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And for all my Sacramento people, I will see you all at Culture Circle tonight here in Sacramento for our second Thursday's open mic. All right, y'all, have a good, wonderful Thursday night, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.